Okay, so for this 72 Mustang, this is the one that we pretty much had to rebuild the entire metal structure on the body, the frame rails, everything on. This car was very rusty, but the good part is now everything's new, kind of all the way throughout. The whole entire firewall, the dash, everything is replaced, including the floor pan. Pretty much the only thing on this car we didn't replace metal-wise was the top of the car here. So everything else is brand new. What's really, really unique about this is it's one of the first Megazilla engines. So that's an all-forged 7.3 liter Godzilla motor on steroids, pretty much. So this is actually a forged version of the heavy-duty truck Godzilla motor. So pretty incredible. However, it is absolutely massive height-wise to fit into this car. So if we kind of look at this, we can tell that this is up pretty high, but we have absolutely no more clearance to go on the lower end here without getting way too close to the road. So if we look underneath here, I kind of take the rack up out of the way, we can see the entire front cross member here. This is the oil pan right here, and you can see just how low that is. We don't want to get any lower than kind of where this front cross member is. Our clearance on the oil pan, if I kind of shine a light back there, to that front rack is very, very tight. So we have no more distance to come down on this car without getting that oil pan. And the transmission pan back here. You can kind of see this composite transmission pan that's on this 10-speed transmission, and I'll show you the top side of that in a second. We want to keep that up as high as possible, but that requires a lot of fabrication on our end. And one of the problems is the customer also didn't want this thing to look like a drag car. That makes it very difficult because we're not just going to be able to slap on a kind of big huge cowl type hood or a big fiberglass insert on the hood on this car. So what we ended up coming up with to make this clear and look a little bit better is a new design for the hood. So I rendered an AI rendering of this, and we were actually looking at taking the scoops and rising them up, but making it look a little bit more original to the car. So sorry, this thing's been through heck between welding and grinding and throughout the car, but what's really cool about this is we can actually render this design in AI, see what it's going to look like, and then we can actually build this out. So Mason actually did quite a bit of work cutting and bringing this hood up, but it does have the factory look to it still. So all we did is rise this up a little bit and taper this. We actually are going to make this a functional air dam. So the air is going to come in here and it's actually going to dump out back here by the windshield. So there is a gap here that we're going to end up putting a grate in as well. We're also going to be scanning this. So I'm going to make the inserts for this on the 3D printer. We're going to use a carbon-based filament, so they're nice and strong, and then we're probably going to end up painting them to color match. So I do have a 3D scanner we're going to take, and we're going to scan this entire hood, and we're going to design in CAD these exact intakes, because obviously now they're taller than the original, so it does take some customization to make those right. And I guess the other more difficult part of this car is we now have to deal with the transmission and all the controllers. So from the internal standpoint, we have to deal with this. Let me open this door and get in here. We have to deal with this absolutely massive 10-speed transmission. This is going to be pretty awesome because we're actually going to have paddle shifts on this. The problem is this thing is huge. It's pretty much a coffee warmer now. So we had to cut the entire hump out, and we're going to have to reform this. And now we got to make everything on the dash componentry and the center console fit this. And you can actually see we're even thinking about bringing this back up just a little bit, which is going to help us on hood height. But we do have to watch that rack up front. But you can see from here to here is pretty much going to be our drive shaft. It's going to be about the shortest drive shaft ever inside of this little tunnel neck. So we're going to have to really watch our yoke angles here and make sure that we don't have too much angle. So the 4-link is on its way. It's got a big Curry rear differential to handle all this horsepower and torque. And then we're going to have to just make sure that our yoke and our pinion angle is okay on the rear end as we deal with probably one of the shortest drive shafts we've ever made. Okay, so underneath this plastic we have a super cool car. It's a 1979 Trans Am 10th Anniversary Edition. This car actually only has 511 miles on it. So you can see how well preserved this car really is. And it is just absolutely gorgeous. It has a 6.6 liter in it, kind of like you're expecting from kind of the smoky cars. Overall, very well preserved so far, but what we're going to be doing is just keeping it really well preserved. From the chassis side, anything that doesn't have coatings on it, we're going to probably have to coat at this point in time because it does have a lot of age on it, so we're going to stop any of that rust. We are going to replace the tires. We're going to get these original polysteel tires again, just so it's safe to drive on the road. We'll probably even keep the original rubbers, the owner will, so that he has them, because this car is so well preserved from original. Jay has already color matched and painted this whole front valance and these air dams up front. We have the pinstriping coming with the red and the charcoal for the 10th anniversary. This pinstriping now has to get put back on down here to match out the rest of the car. So other than that, we have a few trim pieces on the interior we need to work on replacing. We're going to do T-top weather strips. There is a crack on one of the interior panels. If you kind of look at this car, you can actually see just how beautiful it is inside still. It's pretty amazing, the condition of this car. So we'll be doing a little bit of cleaning on the interior, just to kind of make sure everything's fresh, make sure we got good coatings, keeping these seats moisturized. And then we will be painting some of the chassis underside. We're probably going to ceramic paint the exhaust, just to keep that exhaust in good shape on this, so it's not all rusty and nasty. Alright, so here you've probably seen this car before. This is a 63 Corvette. We're actually still waiting on the rims for this car, and we're waiting a few of the interior components to keep putting interior together on it. So it's been a little bit of a long wait to kind of see the rest of this car come together, because we've had to paint it for quite a while. But this has an entire Ride Tech chassis on it, so it's got coilovers adjustable in the rear instead of the old leaf spring, which makes this thing pretty awesome. It's got upgraded Willwood brakes all the way throughout it. We do have the port fuel injection engine on it, again with all the electronic controls, and then we are redoing the interior. This color is absolutely beautiful. If you kind of come in and look at it, what we actually designed this color to do, this is one of our custom colors made in-house. You can see it actually highlight some of the peaks and dips and then kind of shadow out those dip locations. And what this color is designed to do is highlight all these really sharpened up body lines, because we did a lot of body work to sharpen everything on this car. We really wanted to have these lines on the Corvette kind of stand out here. So if you look at the color here, there is actually what we call like a frosted diamond pearl in this. And it's going to have a lot of really cool color changing effects as I kind of move the light across it. And then you're going to see these ribs kind of highlight in the sunlight. So you can really see the color shift happening on those edges. And we'll show you a video of this as we go out in the sunlight as well, because it'll look completely different when you come out in the sunlight. So here you can actually see we did color match the valve covers. Again, another 8 injector port fuel injection system. We got to tie up all the wiring and everything on this, but we do have a high ratio power steering box on it from Ride Tech, all new tubular A-arms up front, and a huge sway bar, kind of like their mixed track package. We do have CNC'd airflow research heads on it, so pretty awesome package for a 327 that came on the 63 Corvette. Alright, so here we have a 1966 Mustang convertible. This is a pretty nice looking car overall. We're going to be leaving the exterior paint on this car. We really didn't need to touch much on it other than the hood. The hood was peeling and cracking, so we're just going to color match it. We're actually doing the body work and painting on that over there, but what I want to draw your attention to is pretty much the entire powertrain of this car has been rebuilt. So we took out the original 289, built it into a 331 all forged internal stroker. It has 8 port fuel injection system on it with a engine controller, all electronic spark control. So this is actually just a dummy distributor that's locked out. We can control all the spark sweeps and everything in the engine controller. It actually does have a Bluetooth app, so you can change fuel types right at the pump. If you're up north and you only have 87 octane, we can switch it from 87 to 93 or 93 to 87 if you only have access to a low octane fuel. So this is a pretty common system that we put in a lot of the cars now. You can see we went to a serpentine system, electric fans. Again, electric fans are controlled on that engine controller as well. We did do an entire new wire harness, brand new AOD transmission with overdrive, We've got a full Kromrey rear differential system, all new springs, all new shocks. We did a Mustang 2 front with power rack and pinion steering, and then brand new disc brakes front and rear as well. So you can kind of see the coilover racks here off of that Heights front end. We just love that kit. Most of our customers really like it. It re-supports this section of the frame. You can kind of see that welded plate there. It also cleans up the engine bay quite a bit. These cars had a huge shock tower in the way on both sides. We put these closeout panels in and it just looks that much cleaner. We have a lot more room to work on the car longer term down the road. So once the customer came and took a peek at the car, everything else was looking really nice. So he decided he wanted a brand new convertible top on it too. So we just got that stripped off and we're gonna be working on putting the new convertible top on this week. And I'll actually kind of divert your attention back to the rear axle. We did do a Kromrey 9-inch rear axle on this. They actually have a pretty cool axle that has a narrow tube on it. If you want to come in here, they make the axle original like the Ford Mustang axle, where it narrows down the tube here and mounts back to the original leaf springs. But it does run a much bigger internal, and then a lot larger axles too. So we did a disc brake conversion on this as well. We're going to be putting some new decals on the side, but overall just kind of refreshing the entire car. One of the only things we didn't touch on this was actually the paint. We did do an H-brace on the frame as well. It'll be a little bit hard to show you that under the car right now, but there is a full H-brace underneath it with 3/16 square tubing steel. So, alright, so I'm going to do a cold start on this for you so you can kind of see how good these fuel injection systems start. This does have a pretty big cam in it, which you're going to hear. It does have an offset ground cam, which can be a little bit difficult to start and idle, but overall these can balance that pretty well with the fuel injection system and the spark control. So I'll give it a start up and a couple of little tiny revs so you can see how fast the engine responds. Alright, so I'm going to walk you through the next few cars relatively quick because we're just getting started on them. This is a 71 Le Mans. Overall car is in pretty good shape. We have a little bit of rust on one of the rear quarters that we're going to be repairing and fixing and then color matching back to this car. We are going to be doing another port fuel injection system, which our customers absolutely love. We're going to be fixing the brakes, putting stainless lines in this, and then a bunch of modern upgrades just to kind of get the car refreshened, get it back on the road, and make it safe for the customers. So, okay, here we got a 62 Chevy Nova convertible. Relatively rare car. We're going to be doing all the paint and body work on it, but you can actually see that the customer on this car had already put in a Mustang 2 front end from Heights. Again, we use that front end a lot. It's just a really good value for what you're getting. He did all these closeout panels. He's actually a fabricator and a welder by trade, so he does not like body metal, he does not like body work, but he can do a lot of this stuff. So he did a lot of this to save some money, and then we're going to be taking over from here and doing a lot of the body and metal work on this car and trying to finish out the interior. So there's a handful of different problems with this car as far as the body metal. As you can see here, everything's kind of misaligned. There's some patch pieces in here. The door is actually hitting right there, obviously binding up, so we got to fix that. You can see where an attempt at some body repairs has happened here, and this is kind of peeling away. Kind of an overlap right now, so we're probably going to have to cut a handful of this out and repair a lot of this. So quite a few different places we're going to have to work on this car, including the convertible top side. Alright, so here's the 68 GTO. On this one we're going to be doing quite a bit of body work on it, building back up, giving it a fresh coat of paint, and then just kind of getting everything put back together. So the guys stripped this down. Again, we're backed up on media blasting right now, mostly because the weather that we've been having has been pretty tough. So we're kind of waiting. We wait till the humidity gets below 60 so we don't get any flash rust on the surface before we can get it into primer. We typically try to prime it within an hour of sandblasting. So if we don't have those conditions, we don't even do it because we want the car to last. So you can see overall this had body work done on it before. Wasn't in that bad a shape, but we're just going to kind of give it a full-blown refresh so that the car's all nice. It does need a little bit of rust repair, kind of down on the rockers. Some of the door cards, some of the door panels need a little bit of rust repair, but overall, once we get the body filler out of this, we should have a fairly decent car to work with from a metal standpoint, just because it's been taken care of its whole life by the owners. Okay, so in the paint booth right now, we don't have any color going on, but we've got a lot of primer going, a lot of primer flying on the different panels for the 69 Corvette. So you can see the guys kind of have this on one of its final blocking primers here. They got it looking pretty good. This actually got sandblasted by a different place. They ended up wrecking a lot of this hood. It actually did have some original damage in it, so Jay rebuilt a lot of the fiberglass on this. We had a few patches to do on the doors, so we're just kind of cleaning that up now. You can see just a few little imperfections still left in this door, some sand scratches, but overall we're going on to the kind of the final sanding processes on this. So it's already had, I think, 2 or 3 blocking sessions with polyester primers and some of the fiberglass reinforced fillers. But overall, the car is coming together pretty well. This car originally started out, we had a customer that was doing one of our training sessions. I went up, kind of traveled to their house. We started taking the car apart and going through everything. And then pretty quickly, I think he kind of realized that he just wanted to get the car done and drive it. So we kind of took it over after the stripping process was done on the main body. And then he had a lot of the components off on the car. So it did save a lot in labor hours to do that training, where I kind of went up there and helped take things off and show him how to pull things off over the weekend. And then we were able to take it over at this point. But you can see the guys have done a pretty good job. There's quite a few fiberglass repairs on this. I think there was 12 or 13 different cracks throughout the body. Typically what we'll do with the cracks is drill out before and after the cracks, refill it with a little bit of blanket matting on the back, some long strand, and then a little bit of resin, and then we'll work the body work from there with some fiberglass reinforced filler. So this car will be going to red. We're not totally sure on which red yet, if it's going to be the red like it's on one of our other Corvettes that we actually designed in-house as a custom color, or if it's going to go back to kind of more victory red like they used to be. So this is a Plymouth Satellite. We actually had a lot of rust on the front end of this car, so the customer kind of had it sitting for a long time waiting to figure out what to do. So if you kind of come over here, I'll show you what we did to the engine bay and to the front cross member on this. So Heights made us a wonderful front cross member kit for this. You can see the huge beams both front and rear now, which gives you a lot more solid frame, and then we even have this tubular front section that bolts up here. Mason reformed a lot of the pinch welded frame sections. If you kind of look over here, these original pinch welded frame sections would rot from the inside out a lot. Very similar to how the Mustang ones rot. So we end up doing a lot of these Heights kits on both the Mustangs and these, because you got to build up these front ends, especially if you start going on modern road speeds and you hit these big potholes. A lot of these will tear out, or the frames will actually have trouble. So on top of that, we did Willwood brakes all the way throughout, stainless steel brake lines. We're getting the engine mounted right now, and then we're kind of back pinning some of the original wiring harness to try to figure out what's going on with the wiring in this. Before we hook everything up and get the radiator and everything into it. So we are finishing out full exhaust system on this. We put new headers on it. Like I said, we did the disc brake kit. Then we're just trying to get the rest of this car up and running, get fuel plumb the engine, get it going down the road again. All right, so here we got a 1971 351 Boss Mustang. We actually did find the sticker underneath the floor pan on this, and it does have the VIN match to it, and it does have the Boss description on it, so that's pretty cool. We weren't really expecting to find that when we got to the interior, so we were very gentle. We actually had a mouse pea that we were trying to separate it from so that it wouldn't completely disintegrate when we pulled it up. It was actually kind of hard to get it free, but we did get it free. We did find it. Overall, this thing's in relatively good shape. They kept it up pretty well, but you can see the kind of the normal spots of rot that are starting in it, so we are going to have to do some rust repairs. Floor pans have just a little bit of kind of Swiss cheese in them, a little bit of rust we have to take care of. So we're going to be cutting some of those sections out, reforming them, repairing them, and getting those cleaned up before we move on to body work. So the worst part of this car was actually the rear quarters here. Somebody had filled these rear quarters all the way full with spray foam before they did the body work on them. So if you can kind of pan the camera down under here, I can actually stick my hand all the way through this, and it's just completely rotted. This is why you should never use spray foam on bodywork. It absorbs moisture and it just completely wrecks the metal. So where this thing would have actually probably been in halfway decent condition on these quarters, that spray foam, actually if you look right through here, you can see how much that actually wrecked. All right, so here you can see just how damaging it is to have that spray foam. You can see some remaining little pieces of it up there, but this entire cavity was filled with that spray foam, and you can see how rotted it got. That's all holes in there, and this thing is completely detached. So we're gonna have to rebuild that whole corner there of this car. But other than that, relatively in good shape. We're just gonna work on sandblasting it again once we can get some good weather here. Okay, so here we have a Fiero that is incredibly well preserved. The customer has had this car for a long time. It actually only has 4,000 original miles on it. We were actually considering, because he wanted some more horsepower, a little bit more torque, to make the car a little bit more fun to drive because it has the 2.8 liter V6 in it, we were considering pulling it out and putting the 3.4 in it. But after we looked at the engine, I said, well, that's kind of crazy considering how low miles are on this 2.8 and how beautiful it is. If you look in here, just how clean this is, you probably wouldn't want to rip it out and throw another engine in there out of the junkyard or out of a salvage location or another car as a donor either. So we actually have something pretty cool on this one. We are going to be pro charging this. So the pro charger just came. That's why we're back in cold storage. This car was sitting in cold storage until this little guy came. So we're pretty excited to be able to put this on there. This is going to be pretty nice as far as packaging because we're going to do a battery relocation. If you kind of look in that corner, that's where the entire accessory drive is. So we're going to relocate that battery, fabricate some mounts, do all the ducting, put this kind of an intercooler to come in through the vent cowls over here, and then we're gonna pro charge it. So here we have a 1963 Cadillac DeVille. Customer ended up picking up a LS engine for it, so we're doing the swap on it. We actually already have the engine mounted. Got the mounts in, the manifolds are on it. Now just trying to figure out the exhaust system and the multi-piece drive shaft. It's a little bit difficult because this car is so big, as you can kind of see here, very massive, and the original drive shaft on this had these double couplers on both locations. These double couplers are kind of a pain in the butt. They're not really meant to take the kind of torque that an LS is going to put down. The original reason why I believe they put those in was so that they had a low tunnel hump in the back for the passengers. So after that, we're going to be putting an air ride kit into this, and then getting it started up, connect the controller, put a little mild tune onto it, and get it going down the road again. All right, so here we have the 1983 K2500, so heavy duty 4-wheel drive square body pickup. This is a really cool truck. It's pretty awesome that he has a heavy duty. We have the whole chassis and frame and everything rebuilt for it, which I'll walk you through in a little bit. But one of the problems that we ran into on this truck, which is not uncommon because they didn't coat the insides of a lot of these body panels originally, was that there was a lot of rust inside. Even on the replacement ones that we find from down south that haven't seen a whole lot of weathering or aging or salt, even those will be rusting from the inside. So we had a pretty hard conversation with the customer, which isn't uncommon when we find that. When we stripped and media blasted that cab, we'd actually found that someone had gone in and replaced a lot of the metal and brazed a lot of pieces into the A-pillars, into the rockers, the floors, all the way up through the firewall. Usually the rockers and floors, not a big deal, even if we get into the firewall a little, but once you start going up into the windshield frame and kind of into the top of the cab, the amount of time that it would take, the amount of labor hours to do all the metal work on that, probably isn't worth it. So we ended up coming up with a different solution here. AMD has sent us every single panel for the entire square body Chevy cab, which is wonderful because these are coated inside and out. They're thick, heavy gauge steel. Here you can see the back of the cab here. Here's an 1/8-inch formed plate for the floor cross sill. Right there is the floor pan. You can see all this is super heavy duty. It's coated inside and out, and we have every other piece here in the boxes. So a lot of pieces that go together to assemble one of these square body cabs, but the great part about this is going to last much longer than the original one did because everything's going to be coated. We're actually going to be putting epoxy over this and then building up our layers from there and keeping all the metal sealed. So he doesn't have to worry about us doing a bunch of metal work, not being able to get in every little nook and crevice and place between two panels, and then having rust come back, 15, 20 years down the road. We're going to have all of this coated, and since it's not going to be driven in the rain or snow or salt, this cab should stay preserved for a very long time with the rest of the truck. All right, so this is the 1983 K2500. We have all the frame components done. This has got a 4-inch BDS lift kit on it. Engine, we put on the start cart, did a little tune-up on it. Actually, engine was in really good shape, had really good compression, so we just kind of readjusted everything, retuned it, figured out what was going on with some of the spark issues, and then just fixed a couple of the oil leaks. We did put new headers on this as well. Transmission was actually also in good shape, which is great. Transfer case dropped a bearing, so we had to rebuild the transfer case to get all the shrapnel out of there from the bearing going out. So while we did that, we redid the U-joints all the way throughout, put a seal kit in the transfer case. We got a couple of new fuel pumps, tanks, senders, everything. We sandblasted the frame, epoxy primed it, and put an industrial black paint on it, so it's very durable now. We also did a disc brake conversion kit on this just so that it stops better. So it does have 4-wheel disc brakes. Overall, this thing is just waiting right now. We even have a lot of the wire harness strung and ready. The stainless steel lines you can see are kind of here and hung for the fuel lines and the brake lines. We're waiting for that cab to get built out so we can put it on here, finish the block sanding work, and paint the truck. For the next car here, we have a 1971 Chevelle. It's actually a convertible. This car just recently underwent a restoration at a different shop. We had a handful of problems that we're fixing on it. One of those problems was the brakes. Another one of those problems was some of the way that the interior componentry was put together, dash, seats. And then the biggest problem that we saw was the customer was complaining of a pretty bad vibration when they took it down the freeway. We ended up finding that the floor pan was literally riding on the drive shaft, hitting it in 6 different locations, and the floor pan was also resting on top of the transmission. So a lot of things going on. They had actually clocked the rear differential downward to try to clear the floor pan and get a little bit of clearance to stop the vibration at the other shop. So we actually had to bring that up because the coupler was binding on the U-joint on the drive shaft. So we actually have the whole floor pan taken out of this now. Guys are working on putting the new one in this week. So here's a nice, thick, high-quality floor pan from AMD. That's going to work out much better for them here. So obviously got to restructure this because it's convertible. So if you take out some of the base structure in the body, we got to put in support bars. So we build that onto the hinge plates, keep the door gaps all aligned as we weld in a new floor pan here too. All right, so this is a 1952 Dodge Power Wagon. Customer did a ton of work on this. He actually has another one of these restored, kind of the military version of this is restored already. He did a wonderful job on getting everything done on the engine, the frame, the chassis, and we're actually just taking it on from here to do the body work. We're going to be media blasting some of the old heavy-duty fenders. I mean, you can see how thick these really are. They're just massive, almost 1/8-inch steel on everything on this entire truck. It's just awesome. Running boards were remade from a company down south that the customer ended up finding. Just got some stampings to be able to do the bed rails, fenders, running boards, and everything. So we're putting the box together. We're going to be assembling that, getting everything fit up, and then once we're done with that, we're going to be doing all the body work on the cab, the bed, running boards, and then the whole front end, the hood, everything. So a lot of body work and paint on this. We're going to be going to kind of the original blue, but with just a little bit brighter, kind of like how the inner door panels are here. So this was the original color. It's a little bit more vibrant if we look at this door panel. So we actually got the camera match that color, and we're going to be going with that because it's a little bit nicer color. We're actually going to remove a lot of the dash componentry, pull the cab back off, and finish all the paint work so that everything matches and is the same uniform color of blue on this truck. But overall, very, very cool trucks. We just obviously have some metal work, like these big dents and stuff like that, which is not uncommon for these trucks because they were used for work. One of the other projects up on the docket here is a 1970 C20 pickup truck. This is a 2-wheel drive pickup truck, but it is a heavy duty. It's the camper special package, so it does have the leaf springs and the straight axle in the rear. We are probably long-term going to be doing restoration on this truck to some level. Right now we're going to upgrade the brakes, put a boosted master cylinder into it, all new stainless steel lines, prep and get the tank out of the cab and put it on the rear of the frame for safety, and then actually put a fuel injection pump on it to prep it for a future fuel injection system on the engine. For right now we're just going to get it up and running, make it safe, fix the brakes, and kind of make it a little bit more drivable, fix the steering, things like that to make it roadworthy again.